Perfect. As you see here, we have the agenda on screen. Next thing I'd like to just note as a part of the housekeeping is that if you could please, I ask you if you could all please keep your mics on mute throughout the duration of the presentations. And if you have questions or comments or anything like that, please use the Zoom chat. We will have a section towards the end of the webinar where we will invite people to raise their hands and unmute their mics if they want, and we can address the questions that have been put into the chat. But while people are presenting, if you could just keep your mics quiet. And yeah, as I said, we have questions at the end. Yeah, so as I said, I will quickly run through the agenda. So we're just in the middle of the welcome and introduction section right now. Next, then I will hand over to Professor Peter Hannenberg, who will give a brief overview of the implementation strategy for research assessment at the Universidade Católica Portuguesa, or UCP, in Lisbon, Portugal. I'll then hand over to my colleague Mara de Souza Freitas, who will give kind of setting the scene essentially on what we're doing with this project and on CoARA's vision overall for advancing research assessment. I'll then hand over to, as I said, my colleague Professor Elif Ekmekçe from TOBB University in Turkey to discuss self-assessment in general and just put that in a bit of context. And then we'll look in a bit more detail along with Elif, along with her colleague Sarah Kirbash from TOBB, insights on a workshop they've held there recently at TOBB. And then we'll open up the questions section for questions, and we'll see if we can pick up any discussions or any of the threads that come through in the chat. So yeah, first, so yeah, as I said, now we have the partner institutions in this project, the three institutions here on screen. I'd also like to just note the contribution so far of our colleague Francis Crawley. I'm not sure if he's here yet, or I'm sure will be joining us at some point, from the Good Clinical Practice Alliance, based in Brussels in Belgium, who's kind of very key to bringing this project together. So just quickly, a bit of background on my institution, the Research Data Alliance Europe. So essentially what we are is that we're the European office of the Global Research Data Alliance organization. If you're not familiar with the Research Data Alliance, essentially it's a kind of community-based group, or not community-based organization even, of about 16,000 members, which is kind of works on all issues to do with data sharing, data management, data reuse. So what we are at RDA Europe is the European office. So essentially what we're trying to do is connect various different data communities within Europe, learn from them, help them learn from each other, and just make the connection between what's going on in Europe and in the global landscape. How we do this is across a number of different ways, and we look to kind of support our regional communities through just being the platform for engagement, bringing people together. Also, as part of the RDA Europe, we contribute to quite a few European Commission funded projects, such as this one and others, including the RDA Tiger Project, the World Fair Project, Fair Impact, etc. And we also provide some training in data management, research data management, and open research and open science. I won't go into any detail on that because this isn't the point of today, but if you are interested, please, you can just navigate to the URL that's on the screen there at the bottom of the screen, or just please search on the RDA website. Okay, so I'll just give a quick overview of what this project is before handing over to my colleagues who will explain in more detail the background of it. So this teaming for self-evaluation and research assessment across scales from researchers to institutions was a project that was selected in the second and most recent round of the CoARA Boost project. So we received a Cascade grant. So I think we're one of 6 of the teaming projects. I think this second round of grants funded 28 projects overall. So we just started in September 2025, so just about 2 months ago, and we'll be running for approximately 12 months. The purpose of the project essentially is to kind of implement a more structured approach to ethics self-evaluation and ethical self-evaluation in research assessment, focusing on 4 different levels, from individual researchers to research project level, up to research units and then institutions. And we're aiming to kind of essentially embed ethical, data-intensive, and AI-aware practices across all of these research levels. How we're doing this, it'll be something my colleague will explain in a little bit more detail in the next few minutes. We'll be building on the work of the CoARA Ethics and Research Integrity Policy, or ERIP working group. We'll be piloting the framework we develop at UCP and at TOBB ETÜ, and we'll be hopefully socializing and disseminating the results via the CoARA and RDA communities. Our sort of aims or outcomes for this is to create a usable self-assessment templates for and tools for researchers, to create training toolkits and host training events towards the end of the project lifecycle, and also essentially just the kind of main goal really is to kind of foster this culture of practical ethical self-reflection and responsible research practices. Just my last slide, anyway, just on why we think RDA itself is a useful and good venue for to discuss research assessment. So on a very practical level, first off, both RDA, the global organization, and RDA Europe are both signatories of the CoARA Agreement and the Barcelona Declaration, which both in their own ways obviously focus on research assessment and reforming research assessment. The impact that we can have as well from the RDA community is the kind of global reach of the community. So as I mentioned, we have over 16,000 members. We have members on every continent on the planet, and spread all across the globe. We have a diversity of community profiles. So what I mean by that is we're not just researchers who are members of the Research Data Alliance. It's people working in policy, people working for funders, people working in research support roles, in citizen science, all those types of areas. And as well as the kind of the individual community members, we have a number of different entities and organizations within the organization. So we have a funders forum, where funders can come together and discuss issues to do with data. And we also have capacity for organizational members and regional entities as well, which makes a difference. On a practical, more day-to-day level, so one of the groups that is hosted by RDA is the Evaluation of Research Interest Group, and this really is the kind of center point of the discussion around research assessment within RDA, particularly as it relates to data, obviously, and to research software too. There's a link there on screen, but I invite you again just that you can be able to search Evaluation of Research Interest Group at RDA, and you'll be able to find that, and it's free to join as long as you're a member. You just hit the join button on the right hand side of the page. Yeah, and what this group has produced essentially is a kind of a white paper or a deliverable which really kind of highlights the value of RDA for the evaluation of research. There's the DOI there on the right hand side. Again, I'll share all these slides and share all the links a little bit later. The final point on why we think RDA is why the discussion of research assessment within RDA is of value is because by and large a lot of the work done within RDA is done on a volunteer basis, and it's sometimes the case, but not always the case, that it's not formally recognized. It's recognized, but not formally recognized by members' institutions in terms of the credit they receive or anything like that. And this type of input that people make to RDA groups and to the work of RDA does not fit into sort of existing assessment rubrics, unfortunately, and hopefully we can make this a change with this. Okay, that's my pitch. I hope I've not gone too far over the time limit. So the next speaker, I'll just hand over to Professor Peter Hannenberg, who's the Vice Rector at UCP, who'll just give a brief background on the situation as it stands at UCP, and then we'll hand over to my colleague Mara de Sousa Freitas, who'll give a bit more detail. Professor Hannenberg, over to you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to be here, and it's very important for us to be here. A short word on UCP and how we want to implement actually the CoARA agreement. We are one of the early signers of the agreement, and since then, and have been involved personally from the very beginning. And since then, I would say two things in my perception have changed in the last 2 or 3 years due to this participation in CoARA. The first thing is something that we all know about, that the role of universities seems to be questioned socially in a way that has not been the case before. And in that sense, reassessing what universities are good for and how they actually are perceived and work in society is a need which is not only internally something that CoARA can promote and boost, but it is something which the society is asking for, and we are in need of doing so. Otherwise, we might be losing our role in society significantly. I'm speaking about the lack of trust in science, which we experience in many ways today. And the second observation, yesterday night I was teaching issues of research integrity to master students, and then I had suddenly a slide on my presentation with Habermas' knowledge and interest. And when I tried to discuss this topic with students, master students, I suddenly realized that today the main interest which prevails in academia seems to be the career, the academic career. I have this notion more strongly than I had when we signed the CoARA agreement. It seems to be something which is today the moving factor. And if this is the case, this is a challenge to CoARA and to what brings us together here at that point. Because it's not only the participation in this work, but many other issues which do not really fit in the research assessment rubrics and therefore fall out of the consideration in terms of career. So that is the general setting that I think moves us and brings us into this work. UCP, you have seen, it is a Catholic university, which means we have two challenges at least to fulfill. The first one to be a good university, and the second to be also a Catholic university. And what does Catholic mean? Catholic means that we are related to certain values, to an understanding of that we are here to serve society, that we are here with a certain purpose. I'm not speaking of dogmas and doctrines and things like that. That's not the point. The point is that actually we understand ourselves, and sometimes really are, as being driven by values. And that makes it very clear why we cannot just rely on numbers or on citation indexes and all other forms of evaluation and assessment that have been out there so far. But we need what CoARA is attempting to implement. We need to understand better and to include in the assessment the dimension of impact in a serious sense, not in the sense of just checking things. So all that we can say about the quality of research and how it really relates to society is something that, in our understanding, is at the heart of the university work. So that's why we are so committed to CoARA. But there's challenges, and I just want to name three and talk about two. The first one we all know, between disciplines, it's very difficult to implement a similar form of evaluation. And we have a lot of discussions between the different areas of academia and research to make CoARA added value in each case. But that's a problem that we all share. The second problem I think I wanted to mention is, for a university in the size of ours, which is a mid-university, so we have 15,000 students. If you count non-graduate students, we have 20 and something. So we are not big and not small. But we are increasingly affected by what the rankings, the international rankings tell about us. And if we want to continue to work, if we want to continue on the map of universities to be considered, we have also to be aware of the effects on the rankings. That is something we experience as a big challenge. How can we actually not give up on the principles which guide CoARA and nevertheless maintain or even enhance our positions in the rankings? Because otherwise we were losing significance, presence, recognition. So that's a real difficult thing. I cannot tell our researchers and teachers, forget about the rankings. I cannot say that because otherwise we are in risk of losing the standing of our university. So this balance, I was not aware of the difficulty of this balance when we started with CoARA, and I feel it more important in the last years, 2 years. So that's something where we have to be very careful in the implementation of CoARA, but I think there are ways to do it, and I'm very confident that we will find a way to address both necessities. And the other point that I wanted to say a brief word on is I'm also very much engaged in doctoral education at the European University European University Association, and the effect of all this for our young researchers is something that I'm very concerned with. How do we guarantee that in the transition from one system of assessment to another, we do not lose the young people, or the young people lose their future? And in more than anything else, I think we should be concerned with the transition of the one system to the other. The end is quite clear, what we aim at is quite clear, the necessities are quite clear, and so on. But how we get there without actually producing negative effects on our young researchers, that is something we are very concerned with. So I really very much hope that the self-assessment process can be a means of actually enhancing the perspective on this, the reflection on this, and in this sense, capacitate, or do you say in English, people with the capacity to deal with assessment in a productive, but also sustainable and impactful way. That's what I can say, and thank you very much for your attention, and I'm very interested in the following sessions now.
Thank you, Professor Hannenberg. Thank you. That was very useful to put the issue of research assessment in the context of what the kind of broader perspective of what universities do. Mara, I guess I will hand over to you then. I can share. I have the slides here, so what I'll do is I will share my screen, and I will ask you to just let me know when you want me to change slide. Here you go.
Yes, thank you, Ryan. Good morning, everyone. So thank you, Professor Peter Hannenberg, for this introduction to our university. First, I want to thank all the partners of this project, Ryan, by the Research Chat Alliance of Europe, Alif from TOBB University, and Alif, and my university, Universidade Católica Portuguesa, in the name of Professor Peter Hannenberg, for all the support to put this project as an action for our next year. So setting the scene and introducing the self-evaluation for research assessment, I think Ryan and also Professor Peter already said the most important things. I will just point it out some straight points that we want to underline for our project. I think this kickoff webinar is one of our most important points, the starting point, because I think it is the first step to start to develop the critical thinking regarding research assessment. And this is a nuclear moment for research assessment, not only in our country, but across Europe, not only for our project, but across Europe and beyond. Because this is for us a call for action, a call for responsible, transparent, and ethical grounded evaluation has never been stronger. And I have to say, and I really believe on the capacity and the stretch of our project. And as my colleagues already said, the Coalition for Advanced Research Assessment gives us a vision that challenges us to rethink how we recognize excellence, how we assess how we evaluate an academic career, a professional career, a research environment. So how we really recognize excellence, what means excellence for each of us in the academic or research environment, how we recognize diversity. We talk a lot about diversity, about inclusion, and about social impact, about, as International Council of Science said, the knowledge for the common good, but what it means in practice, and what means social impact in research, how we can assess this or how we can guarantee and promote this impact, how we want to use science to answer society needs. And our project, the self-evaluation for research assessment, is a direct answer to this call for action. And what is this project? And I will be just a quick answer. The main important thing here, and we truly believe that this is a key point, is we are a collaborative movement. We are a collaborative group, and we want to involve everyone in this way to make this transformation. And our mission is to develop a pilot ethics-based self-evaluation methods that can empower, can train researchers, research unities and institutions to reflect critically on our practice, on their practice, on the way they are doing science and the way we are learning in a higher education environment. And using the CoARA Europe ethics self-assessment checklist, we aim to stretch integrity, transparency, and the policy alignment in research assessment. And why does this matter for us and for all the European environment, but beyond Europe also, because we are involving persons around the world? Because this landscape of research is changing, and AI and data-intensive science are reshaping methodology, are reshaping the way we do science and the way we educate, are reshaping all the environment and the organizational cultures and the individual cultures. So are reshaping methodology, outputs, and expectation. Do we expect the same as we expected in the past without AI? And our project intend to clarify how this transformation can affect this assessment and how can we improve this assessment, ensuring, of course, that ethical and legal standards at a national, European, and global are really integrated into every level of this evaluation, of this assessment. And what is our commitments? We want to advance European framework for responsible research assessment grounded in scientific rigor, legal compliance, and ethical reflections. We want to promote open, truthfully, and interoperable infrastructures that support transparency and accountability. And we want to recognize diverse contributions and careers paths, emphasizing the social value and scientific value of research, and fostering mutual learning across disciplines and our individual rules for all. And that we really believe together with TOBB University, Research Data Alliance Europe, and Universidade Católica Portuguesa, and all the ones that want to join us and to work, really want to work on a collaborative approach. We want to deliver adaptable, multilingual tools that make ethics self-assessment practical and impactful. We want to make it easier and to make to create a self-conscience, a self-responsibility in the way we do science and the way we access the work we are doing. And this is not just about compliance. It is about building a culture of responsibility and trust, and to enhance research quality and societal relevance. So we want to together make research assessment not only fair and transparent, but also ethically robust, and like future ready. We have to be prepared for the future now. And the alignment with the CoARA and Research Data Alliance in Europe. I think I will not add nothing because Ryan and Professor Peter already said everything about this line, but we are fully aligned with the vision and principles of CoARA and about Research Data Alliance in Europe. And we want to contribute to a responsible research assessment grounded in scientific rigor, legal compliance, and ethical reflections, and fostering mutual learning across disciplines and rules. We want to put research assessment at ethics self-evaluation in our curriculums and in our cultures. And we want to advance a European framework for responsible research assessment. So I think we can pass, and I will just show quickly the operational, what we want to do in our university at Católica University of Portugal. Right now, I will ask you please to pass the slides. And just to underline what this project for us in Universidade Católica Portuguesa, this approach positions as an active agent in the transformation of evaluation systems, in line with principles of open science, epistemic justice, and responsible governance of artificial intelligence, as advocated by emerging European policies. So we really want, and following what my vice rector said regarding this kind of how we really are reshaping our cultural environments, and how we can give our hands to our young researchers and to be an example. It's not just a kind of checklist to accomplish. It's not just a kind of points that we want to see fulfilled. Is really ask ourselves why we are doing what we are doing, how we are doing, and how we are giving the example for the future generations regarding how to create values with value for all. So it's really not about metrics, not about numbers, but really meaningful science. Please, Ryan, sorry. Our main goals is to promote an institutional adherence to principles of CoARA, ensuring that UCP units integrate evaluation practice that value the quality, relevance, and integrity of research. Foster this critical and collaborative self-evaluation through the use of tools such as integrity checklists with support reflection on research and evaluation. And this, in CoARA Europe, where we did this self-evaluation, ethics self-evaluation checklist, the thing that we really believe it's when I first have to assess myself, I will better I will plan better a direction to my research, because I want to make impact, and I can value this direction for all. It's not only about to do an academic career, but how to do this academic career with impact, with social and scientific impact. And this is the transformation that we need to create. To consolidate Universidade Católica Portuguesa active participation in the European evaluation reform networks, and contributing to the development of innovative policies practices at a national and international level, and ensure that quality of self-assessment reports as an expression of the commitment to continuous improvement, transparency, and institutional accountability. Please, Ryan. What we are doing at UCP, our operating structure. Now, this is our kickoff, and we will have an institutional coordination group with the representatives of our rectory, with the Professor Peter Nandenberg, with the Bioethics Institute, with our Research Integrity Office and Research and Innovation Office, with our research unities. And we will have an internal responsible for this articulation in internal and external presentation for the projects. And then, Ryan, can you just pass the slide, please? What we want with this pilot, then we will create with this coordination, we will choose the pilot unities, two or three research unities. We will select, and then we will test this ethics self-assessment checklist. And what are our impact factors for UCP? It's the transforming research evaluation practices. We want to stress scientific ethics and integrity. Ryan, please. We want to add an active participation in European network and producing knowledge for the public good. And the final alignment with the table that it's better to see all. So today we present this kickoff meeting. Then we will select the pilot units. Then we will request for ethics assessment to ethics committee before the application of our checklist. Then we will have internal training with workshops regarding to apply the checklist. Then we will have our first formal training for all the projects with our partners, with the Research Alliance and TOBB University, that we are planning to do the first training in Lisbon, and then the second training in TOBB universities. And then we have the real implementation in the pilot units with the results of all the work and the training that we did in all the institutions across the projects. So this is a little bit the alignment of all the projects and the way we intend to implement this in our university. So, thank you. I think I will give the floor now to Professor Alef from TOBB University. Thank you.
Thank you, Mara. Thank you so much. And Ryan as well. Thank you so much. And Professor Nandenberg for just making the introduction and drawing the main frame for what we are what we're aiming to do here. So my presentation is very much on the content of the project, and not only on the project, but on the new perspectives on research and researcher assessment. So let me share my screen first. and please confirm if you can see my screen with the identifying value in the digital realm. Thank you so much. So what I'm going to talk very briefly is going to build on what already Professor Hannenberg has said about the difficulty of combining the conventional metrics with the new ones, with the new metrics or new digital objects that are emerging with the AI, and also involving young academicians into this process, both in the reform process and also the assessment process, and eventually maintaining and improving trust in science. So we are all aware that the landscape of data and AI research is rapidly evolving, and there's a substantial need for developing a launchpad for innovative tools to enhance the assessment and evaluation of research objects. And when I say research objects, I mean research outputs, the supporting data, software, methodologies, as well as the research process itself. And also, let me add, which is not on the slide, is the researcher herself as well. So this is a comprehensive process that includes both the research objects, the research itself, and the researcher. And the ethical approach that we are having mainly focuses on the ethical principles of responsible conduct of research, integrity, honesty, trust, and transparency, and impact and practical utility. So what are the aims and objectives? First, to improve the research assessment in terms of precision, nuance, and reliability. And also to comprehend the new challenges and opportunities presented by emerging technologies and data. Also to probe cultural, domain, and sector-specific needs and norms. I have already seen Talia's comment in the chat saying that what we are talking about is mainly focused on Europe and European values, and what about the rest of the world? So I really second Talia's point, and I want to underline cultural and domain and sector-specific needs and norms, which is which really requires a kind of a participatory approach to the process. And to find common grounds for collaborative approaches to understand and shape and also reshape the digital realm and technological tools for finding novel synergies presented by digital research objects, and to enhance the efficiency and trustworthiness of research assessment, aligning with CoARA Europe's objectives, and to create a more open, transparent, inclusive research ecosystem based on ethics and integrity, which will serve to enhance trust in science as an ultimate goal. And the methodology that we follow is first examining the standard systems that might denote adherence to best practices, which we can also label as the conventional metrics, and then streamlining the evaluation process and making it easier to identify research that meets integrity standards within the real within the current realm, which is equipped by AI tools, and defining well-established concepts with the new realm of AI and big data. And on this basis, we had to, rethink research assessment and evaluation, and really reflect on what we mean by assessment and evaluation. With assessment, we mean evaluating how digital transformation affects the research methods and outputs, focusing on quality, impact, and productivity. And with evaluation, we mean examining the broader implications beyond academic metrics, such as social impact, relevance to policy, and its innovation potential. And discovering novel connections or potential synergies among research domains previously considered unrelated or disconnected is a natural, a part or consequence of an effective research evaluation process. Also, incorporating social, cultural, and geographic nuances in data and to enrich the interpretation of research findings is an essential part of this reflection. Developing interoperability of quantitative and qualitative data to uncover extensive implications of research beyond traditional academic measures, and fostering research that is transferable and translatable across different contexts and applications are also among the main elements of research, assessment, and evaluation. So by redefining the concepts required to reform science and education for our digital societies, we base on core values like being inclusive, flexible, proactive, not reactive, but proactive, immediate response capacity for crisis situations, preserving and protecting the conventional norms of RCR, but also enriching it with the new landscape of research with AI and data. Decentralized and interconnected are the other core values of our work. So this is a matrix that we prepared together with the working group, especially CoARA Working Group 2, and Sare and Berfin, my two students, and who are assisting us within this project, were the key builders of this matrix. So I will just pass the floor to Sare to explain how this matrix works, to combine the conventional responsible conduct of research principles and norms with the new ones that are emerging with the AI in equation. So Sare, if you may.
Thank you. So the work we did here mainly draws from the, as you said, works from the workstream 2, especially from the landscaping categories that we did. As you can see here, we assessed our landscaping categories and compared them to some of the normative values that we established. These are the parts that you see as openness, respect for IPR, or credit and honesty. We established these normative values from CARE, FAIR, and RCR principles, and we compared our landscaping categories to these normative principles. And we did this on two axes. The first one is the one you see on the radar chart, where we compared our landscaping categories and so how many landscaping categories corresponded to each of the normative values. As you can see here, we valued a lot of things like openness, social responsibility, or objectivity. And you can see as well, the respect for colleagues and carefulness parts are a bit like lacking in the categories, landscaping categories parts. So this is actually not a deficit of our research or landscaping categories, because this underlines the greater work that we're doing here. We're not trying to replace the existing conventional metrics. We're trying to complement them. We're trying to find a complementary system that works alongside with it. Respect for colleagues or carefulness is already very well established matrix from the conventional research metrics. What we're trying to do here is put a bit more emphasis on openness or objectivity and create different landscaping categories that we can then use for tools like the MAC, the Modular Assessment Configurator. The second part that we assess the second axis that we're working on is the quite opposite perspective, actually. The color gradients that you see here tells us how each of the landscaping categories correspond to different values. So this tells us which specific landscaping categories needs the most ethical support. What we see here is that, like, let's say the AI and automation and research assessment needs a lot more ethical support than researcher credit. We can assess them on one of the ethical normative values, whereas for AI and automation and research assessment needs a lot more ethical support and a lot more ethical background. And the thing that we did here is it gave us an objective, a material thing that we can use for in the computing systems that we're using for the MAC. We're saying we need an open and like objective, honest research assessment system. But how we're going to do that is falls within this matrix. How we're going to implement these each of the landscaping categories based on how we're going to value them, how we're going to weigh them in this the MAC system, in the Modular Assessment Configurator system. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sare. Thank you. So, I mean, this was the theoretical background of what we have been doing. And after we started the project at TOBB ETÜ at my university, we actually held two workshops, one with the academicians and the other one with the students, both undergrad and postgrad students. So these workshops were based on semi-structured questions, and we had three main themes. The first one was Gen AI used in scientific research and publication. The second theme was Gen AI used in higher education. And the third one is ethical issues of Gen AI use in academia and higher education. So we had three basic themes, and we had three tables that the academicians and students just wandered around and expressed their thoughts and pursue some discussions on these items. So I will very, very briefly try to present what we found in the academics, in the workshop that academicians were attending, and the main ethical issues arising from the use of artificial intelligence in scientific research.
Sounds for me.
Sorry, Nisa?
Yeah, no sound from me. I cannot hear you.
You cannot hear me?
Yeah,
Okay.
by now,
Yeah.
yes, but for some seconds I couldn't. Thank you.
Okay. Is it okay now? Should I continue, Ryan?
Yes.
Should I
Sure.
go on? Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the feedback, Nisa. So the first one was the lack of disclosure of using AI tools within education or scientific research or publication. Lack of disclosure of this is an ethical breach, and the second one was artificial intelligence encouraging scientific laziness. This was a theme that was raised both by the students and academicians. And also in AI, the source of incoming information is unknown. So there is the problem of trust and accountability. And AI companies are in control. So the outputs that they are giving to the AI is giving to us. Is it coming from open source? Is it coming from paid databases? So it's quite unknown, and that's a vague and gray area for academicians. And also the likelihood of scientific articles becoming similar in the future, and lack of accountability. And the main conclusion was that AI facilitates ethical violations. So I think this is something worth discussing. AI, because we are trying to create a realm, as Mara said, in which ethical choice is the easiest choice. However, our academicians are underlying that AI is facilitating ethical violations, and also AI should be used with the understanding that it's a tool, it's not an end in itself. And to encourage ethical use of AI, recommendations were made for ethical awareness training and the inclusion of ethics courses in the curricula of the university, which we are working on, and I think which is going to be one of the side outputs of this project as well, that we can collaborate. And what are the opportunities and threats presented by AI? We're summarizing, creating slides, and preparing presentations, preparing questions, which is quite up to discussion, finding cases and examples, main topics of drawing the main topics of the course, content support, translation, project design, visual contribution, weekly feedback like quizzes, and code algorithm and software. And the threats were incomplete and or misleading content, minimizing the faculty role, which is something I think worth discussing, laziness in students, inequality, laziness in academicians, sorry for this duplication, and lack of equal access. And this morning we had another workshop with students, and this is a photo shot from the workshop, and we had it like an hour ago. It was finished, and Sare and Berfin was together with us. And I would like to pass the floor shortly to Sare again to just summarize what we discussed in this workshop. Yes, Sare.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So our outputs, the student outputs, were actually quite similar to the academician outputs, maybe a little different in terms of preparing questions. But what we mainly got from here, which came up time and time again in our conversation, was the matter of education. As you said, there is a great need for implementing ethical use of AI education in and research assessment education in the university curricula, because students are aware of these issues and they are affected by them. And I think they will benefit greatly from these perspectives, from these educations. And I think this will help not only students, but the academicians as well to foster a bit more like rigorous, a bit more like live academic research environment. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we also ran the self-assessment checklist with the academicians, and we're still in process of evaluating them. So I'm going to present them within our next meetings, and maybe we can have some feedback from what we from our results to improve the self-assessment checklist as well, Mara, if you agree. So thank you. So that's all from me. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Elif, and thank you, Sarah. That was really interesting. So I'm trying to juggle a few things here. I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat because there's a lot of questions, a lot of comments, but I think some of these have been answered already. I've been providing a few links and everything. I invite Mara and Elif and Sarah as well. If you want to just have a quick look in the chat, see if there's anything there that hasn't been answered yet, that we want to mention.
Thank you, Ryan.
There was I think most of them have been answered, and there was just a few things about looking for links and things, which I hope we've answered. I think there was two comments there that are worth addressing. I think one's has been partly discussed already, and one I think is something we need to kind of consider as going forward in the project. So the first of those was the comment from Michael Mend on just to summarize it, how do we ensure that essentially that the work we do in this project, which I will note is ambitious but is limited in scope. I mean, it's three partners, and we only have a year to do all these things we're hoping to do. But essentially, what Michael was asking, it's a very good point, and I think it's a point that stands to a lot of European Commission funded projects, is how do we ensure that the work we do during the project is actually impactful beyond it. And Michael, if you want to, I'll invite you to open your microphone and elaborate if you like. But what you said there is a very useful phrase, I think, about how
Ryan.
to prevent. Yeah, Mara, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, just I don't know if Michael wants to put the question for all. Then after maybe I just want to underline 2 or 3 points regarding the other European projects such as ROSI, Embassy of Good Science, NERC, ERIO, other European groups that are working on research integrity, and the different approach from our project, that they are complementary. They don't want, as Sarah said, to substitute or to create another tools, but to improve together in a collaborative approach. So, but maybe first Michael can put the question for all.
Thanks. Thanks for the opportunity to rephrase it. So I'm aware of NERC. I'm aware of ERIO. I'm an ERIO contributor as of just recently. So I've been teaching and using the resources that have come out from the research integrity side and research ethics side a lot. I'm very fond of CoARA and any initiative. However, hi Bert. However, I've had the experience in the past that a lot of packages are built and then they're left alone, and it's really hard to get people becoming aware of it, and it's really hard to motivate, especially early career researchers, to actually use these resources. So the other point that I've made already in the response is the resources, and they are complementary. And I don't think that any resource that is built is, in addition or superflux. It's not. It's really complementary. It's an add-on, and the initiative should be there to really build a hub where we can actually have these resources always available. Because when I see that even resources of open research or other parts are being used, they are promoting and supporting, they're motivating young researchers actually to self-assess. Because in doing cases about open research, cases about cases which are really touching on ethics, it helps them to reflect. And so research assessment as such, self-awareness, self-assessment does work. That's good on the individual case, on the individual level. Now, when it comes to the university, how are you going to implement it? How are you going to make sure these resources are going to be used in the long term? How are you going to actually also make sure that you have, as a university or research performing organization, the motivation to self-assess how efficient these tools are and resources for early career researchers? That is basically the way I'm thinking. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Michael. May I, Ryan, or? Yes,
Please,
thank
please.
you. I'm not sure if you have met Michael, but I see that you already know very well all the European groups working on research integrity. And I think what you have just said, it's maybe a starting point was a little bit the starting point for our project, just because, yes, we have the European project, we have, and this project as Embassy of Good Science, Ontario, all the materials that has been created in the past from these funded projects are really, really important. Maybe on the way, as you said, of a self-assessment. And in our project, we did this discussion, this distinction between self-assessment and self-evaluation. And with the self-evaluation, they are related, of course, but they are distinct. Because with self-evaluation, we are talking about a personal, an exercise that focuses on understanding and improving our own performance and values regarding research integrity. But for self-assessment, that's why we are trying to do this project in both approach, with self-evaluation and also self-assessment, because we really believe that we need to work in critical thinking, moral conscience regarding the way we behave, and why. Because, for example, regarding both self-assessment and self-evaluation, what we want, what is the indicator at the end, what is the outcome that we need? We need increased self-awareness in both levels, individual and organizational value. And we really know, and we all know from our practice, that many of the unethical behaviors happen sometimes that unconsciously, due to habits that we have, due to the way we see others doing things. And with this checklist, we want to force each person to pause, to stop and reflect whether our decisions align with some principle, some code of conduct, and the way our institutions are doing things. And so awareness for us, and I know that also NERC and RDA and also the Embassy of Good Science are also working in that. But yes, maybe the question is how we can help each other to improving and to keep these principles and all these groups alive in each day in our practice, because this is really a problem. We all think that, and this is the starting point of our discussion for this CoARA Boost project regarding the need to self-assessment, the need to self-awareness, the needs to promote this accountability, the needs to prevent ethical blind spots. We need to avoid these and to create just by the first steps of research, how can we embed our students' conscience with these values and really see that it's not just to do research. I think this is an interesting topic, but how this topic will accomplish society or my university or some specific needs, why I'm doing that, for who, why. And it seems like it's very easy. This is really, we are at this level thinking about these things, but we really think that is the first step of critical thinking, moral conscience, and these distinctions between how I can contribute to my organizational environment, and how in the top-down and bottom-up approach, how can the organizational environment can build new conscience and create conditions to improve the quality of science that we need, and at least to create this social impact, a meaningful impact. And I will hand, because the white paper of International Council of Science, when put knowledge for the common good, this is not a theoretical approach. We need to put this white paper and the access of data, the justice, the beneficiency, the non-maleficiency, the respect for autonomy in practice, because in a theoretical approach, we can say what we want, but ethics is about human behavior. So research and education, higher education, is about individual behavior that can impact in an organizational level. So it's very hard to work with human behavior because we have all the humanitarian history in practice. And even with the AI, how AI are impacting ourselves, the way we work, the way we live. And the only instrument that are really able to change and to transform our practices is to create moral conscience. It's like Hannah Arendt said, it's not my words, it's how we distinguish. Are we able to distinguish between the good and the will? Are we going between what we can do and what we should do? And this is the question. I can do everything, but the ethical question is about what I should do in each situation regarding to achieve goals for all. And I really think, yes, we have a collaborative approach, and I think we should all work together on this. But I really understand your questions, and I really thank you for putting this question, is because it's not, we are trying to win something different than the work that has been done. We just want to contribute in a positive way to all of us. I think this is our main purpose in our project, to keep these things at stake and to keep these things in our ordinary days during research, during education, during all our research and academic environment.
Thank you, Mara. Alif, go ahead, your microphone is open.
Yeah, thank you. Just a quick comment on what Mara has already said, and regarding the question of Michael. I think it's a really very important question and comment that you're bringing, because there are lots of projects now. They're mainly working in the same area, but we don't know what the impact will be in real world. For me, there are some reasons to be optimistic that this project is going to have some concrete impact in our academic life. One of them is the dedication of the project partners. You saw how Mara is talking. She is really dedicated to ethics, and Sarah as well. And me, myself, and Francis, who is hiding somewhere. He's in an airport. He's just writing in the chat, but he doesn't speak today. And so there is a very dedicated team. And the second one is the presence of Professor Heidenberg here, because without having the administrative people within the group, I think it is really very hard to drive the cultural change that's going to be one of the consequences of this project. We all feel the need for doing this cultural change, but if we cannot have the students, the academicians, and also the higher administrative level within the team, and it's very difficult to have the consequences, the impact that we want. So when I heard that Professor Heidenberg was willing to attend to this meeting, and thanks again for being here, I just ran to my rector and said that, you know what, the vice rector of University of Católica Portuguesa is attending, so would you like to attend to the next meeting? And I think this is a huge impact, and he was really very positive about being together with us, which means that whatever we do here has a chance to not to stay as an isolated project that was done within 12 months and now resting in a shelf, but as something that has concrete impact and results that's going to serve the ethical research assessment. So that's from my part. Thank you.
If I may add on this very briefly, and thank you for mentioning this. I think there are three ways of guaranteeing the success of such an initiative. The first thing is actually taking it to other contexts and speaking about in other networks, having networks itself, and so on and so forth. So that's where we get to other places. But looking at our institution, where of course the vice rector can do a little bit more than just dissemination, I think there are two ways in which such projects are accepted and sustainable. First, when the things are really good for the people. So when they recognize an added value in what is going there. And I think the selling point that we always have to stress how much this helps the researcher to find the best way in doing his or her research. And I think the added value for each of the ones who use this tool is the guarantee to make it a success in the institution. And if this does not help, then it might be turned into a mandatory thing at a certain point, or at least to a point that it is mandatory to discover the added value of it. You see what I mean? And I think, of course, as the leadership of the university, we have always to measure very well what is mandatory and what can be trusted to the individuals as a self-driven decision. But these are the means that we have at hand. And I would not think that it makes sense from the standpoint of the university leadership that we invest so much in CoARA, we invest so much in this group and discussing these forms of self-assessment, and then do not use it. So the commitment is at that level, and to find the best ways to make this possible.
Thank you, Professor Hannenberg. Thanks all. Professor Thalia, I see you have your hand up. I was just about to say that you have a question in the chat, but I invite you to speak. I'd just like to add that we have about 4 or 5 minutes left, and we also, I think, have a couple of slides on just wrapping things up. So if possible, could you make your question brief?
Yes, I will do that. It's a
Thank you.
very quick question, primarily for Elif, but it also applies to all of us here. The cultural change that Elif you mentioned, which is superb, and the work that you did with the students, but I wonder if that cultural change should not start from top down, because it's the top researchers and the organizational structure at the top that plays the role of role model and the hidden curriculum. So maybe top down, not or concurrently, but not from students upwards. And I think Peter thinks this is ausgezeichnet, maybe. Thank you.
So Tanya, I'm not sure if I understood your question.
Yeah, thank you, Elif.
Okay, so the cultural change needs to start from top down. So with the scientists, established PIs, IRBs, and then to students who will be trained and mentored by them. Not only I don't think we need to begin with the students solely, because they will see on the floor something very different from what you are teaching them. I hope this makes it clearer.
Yes. Now I see your point. So I don't quite agree that the cultural change starts from top down. And I would like to ask Sarah as a student. So you are sorry, saying, oh, me again. So sorry for that. I mean, I would like to hear your perspective as a student and as a candidate for a young academician. I mean, cultural change is something really very complex. So I think it has to run parallel, both from top down and bottom up. But when we had the workshop today, we saw that students, both undergrad and postgrad students, they have very, very comprehensive thoughts and ideas about how this cultural change should be and how it should be driven as well. So as a student, What do you think, Sare? The question should be for you, not for me, maybe.
Well, I think the cultural change actually is meant to start from bottom up, because if we want to see real change, real adaptability, it has to come from students, and it has to be adaptable. It has to be responsive to their needs and to their limitations, to their use of these assessment tools. So what we saw today here, just a few hours ago, they are a lot more aware, they're a lot more receptive to the work we're doing here than we might initially thought. They are very aware of the implications, aware of the uses and the constraints about the use of AI in their research and in their education as well. They're very aware of the ethical limitations, the ethical framework that they're working in. Many of them that I spoke to, I was mainly working on the scientific research and evaluation part, and nearly everyone that I worked with, that I talked to, said if we are using these tools, these AI tools, in like these ways, this might not be ethical, and the other ones, this might be. They need the guidance, yes, true, but they also need a system that is adaptable, that is responsive to their needs. Because if we're not getting these insights from students, then we're, I think, at a risk to create a system that is not responsive to the change, that is not responsive to their needs, and it is not adaptable. We can create systems from bottom up all we want, but if it's not adaptable from the student body, if it's not responsive to their needs, they're not going to use it. That is my main argument when I'm saying we should start from the bottom up. We should get everyone's insight, get everyone's attention, and then we should create a system that is a bit more robust, that is a bit more responsive, as I said again and again. So I think the main thing that we should do is gather the students, gather their information, gather what they're thinking, understand where they're coming from, and learn from them instead of creating this top-down approach that is kind of rigid and not responsive.
Oh, that was not what I meant, by the way, by top-down approach. Not that it's very important to include students to get their viewpoints, and indeed we learn a lot from them. But I cannot teach students on how to do something, and when they are working with their PIs or with their mentors, they see their well-established, highly published mentors doing quite the opposite.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. Sorry for the misunderstanding. I completely agree with you. That's why we have to do it all at the same time.
Yeah.
So I mean, having the rules, regulations, or guidance on paper, and leaving the young academicians or students with PIs who just do the opposite is a nightmare. So I think that's the hard part of the cultural change that we all have to work on. Thank you for raising this issue up. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Ryan.
Mara, please, no, Mara, please respond. But if possible, could you maybe include some closing remarks, because we are at
so yes. Just to say, to conclude this part, I fully agree with Alif, and I understand Professor Talia, but I would say that we need bottom up and top down. And from my experience teaching and training for research ethics and research integrity, what I think it's really interesting, it's because sometimes, and we, for example, in our medical school, we have the research ethics and research integrity integrated in our curriculum. And what I began to see is that sometimes students came to me and say, can we have a meeting with my supervisor, because I said that we have to do this way, and they said to me it was not like that, but I really remember your classes and your training, and maybe we should talk. And that's the way we can approach each other and to avoid this gap. And yes, moving to the conclusion remarks, Ryan, I will just ask you please to put the last slide. It's just to take home message. But I can go ahead with that. So to take home message and closing remarks. So assessing ourselves ethically
is crucial because it helps us identify gaps between our values and our actions, which is the first step toward a meaningful behavior change. And yes, it increases self-awareness, it promotes accountability, it prevents the ethical blind spots, as I already said, it builds integrity and trust, and it supports the continuous improvement. So ethics isn't a one-time decision. It is really an ongoing process, and this regular self-assessment helps in adapting to new challenge and maintaining these higher standards aligned with values and principles. So ethics self-assessment is the deliberate and critical review of one's actions, decisions, and values against ethical principles. And it involves reflecting on moral responsibility, fairness, and integrity, and checking alignment with codes of conduct or societal expectations, and considering the impacts on others, patients, colleagues, communities, and all the ecosystems. And these practices is vital in fields such healthcare, research education, research, and leadership, where these ethical lapses can have serious consequences. So self-assessment offers significant benefits and at every level, at individual, organizational, and societal. And for individuals, it can enhance self-awareness and emotional intelligence, support careers development and ethical decision-making, and foster a lifelong learning and adaptability. For organizations, it can stress ethical governance and compliance. It can improve performance management and strategic alignment, and it can build trust with stakeholders and the public. At a societal level, self-assessment promotes social accountability and justice, encourages inclusive and participatory practices, and supports sustainable and ethical innovation. And together, these benefits create a foundation for what we are talking here, for integrity, for resilience, and for this shared responsibility. So the self-evaluation for research assessment aims to transform research assessment through ethical-driven self-evaluation across all scales, individual researchers to institutions. By piloting these adaptable, multilingual tools based on CoARA ethics self-assessment checklist, the initiatives empower stakeholders to enhance transparency, integrity, and policy aligned in the evaluation practices. And the CoARA for research assessment addresses this challenge posed by AI and data-intensive research, integrates ethical and legal standards at institutional, national, and global levels, promoting open, truthfully, and infrastructures for accountability. And we are fully aligned with CoARA principles. It values diverse contributions, fosters social responsible research, and advance co-created knowledge through mutual learning. And to finish, please, Ryan, just to share, we will share with you. This is our next and our first training of this project that will happen here in Lisbon, in Universidade Católica Portuguesa, with all the team. And you are all invited to come here if you are interested. And this will be 2 days of training. This is a draft program, so this is not the final program. This is the final alignment, the things that we want to work with all the academic and research community. And just to finish, to ask you to join us. you are all invited to join our team and to work with these tools regarding this self-challenging transformation that we need to put in practice with this project. But it's not an end with this project. We need to keep these practices for our academics and research communities, and to improve the needs for good knowledge and good research in our society, and in order to create this truth and this trust in knowledge and in science. So thank you all, and please join us for this project. You are all welcome to join. Thank you. Ryan, I pass you the floors for the...
That's it. I think very well said, Mara. Thanks everybody. Apologies again. I think there was some issue with, I think we were too popular, the webinar, so I think some people couldn't join. But I'll be sharing the recording and the slides and everything afterwards, and some follow-up directions too. Thanks again, Mara, Peter, Elif, Sarah, and Francis as well for contributing via the chat at the airport. Thanks for joining us today, and hope you enjoy the rest of your day. We'll be in touch soon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you.